ended up divorced, kind of losing that business. I had to start over completely at like the age of 30. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the raw realities of owning a $1 million e-commerce brand. I started my first clothing company in 2004 when I was 17. I was in the clothing business until 2018. So about 14 years of doing this. And for the first 5 years, I worked side jobs. I was a waiter for most of it. And then I would do like screen printing side jobs because I had my own screen printing facility in-house. So I actually printed all the shirts myself. The main point that I want to get across is that revenue is not profit. So when you hear people talking about all these numbers that they're doing, just remember that if they're even telling the truth, then they're probably talking about their gross sales. The reality in my situation is that I was broke most of the time, or what I would call broke. Now, like one of the first best years I did, I made personally around $90,000. That was great for the time, but as we grew, that was the most I ever made personally. And then it kind of just went down from there because stupid business decisions. Essentially, we opened a brick and mortar store, which was extremely expensive for me at the time. I took out a HELOC, home equity line of credit, on my house to build the store with my business partner and his wife. We basically tried to grow too fast. Instead of doing more of what was working, we opened that store and then quickly moved the store to a bigger, more expensive location, which maybe could have panned out fine, but we were trying to do too much. I think for a long-term plan, it could have worked out fine. I exited the business and made almost no money, actually lost money with debt that I still had personally. The reality of running a $1 million e-commerce brand is that you have to pay attention to your numbers, profit, and make wise decisions about where you're reinvesting and not try to do too much. I was a young entrepreneur and very excited about so many different ideas, like a lot of entrepreneurs are. I guess what they call now shiny object syndrome, constantly running to new exciting thing. And I learned a lot doing it, but I didn't make a lot of money. I did gain a lot of experience and knowledge on what not to do, but it was extremely stressful. Ended up divorced, kind of losing that business. Not really. Like I said, I exited it. I had to start over completely at like the age of 30. And that was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me in a way, because all these things I've read about Eastern philosophy, Taoism, Zen Buddhism, that like everything is temporary and can be taken from you at any time, is kind of what happened to me in a way. I lost my family and my business and was broke. I still had shared custody with my kids. So it's not that tragic, but at the time when you're going through it personally, it is very tragic. So I had to start over and basically get a job in corporate America. My first job that I was able to get, I was making more per year than I ever did in business. So that was nice, but it was corporate America. And I desperately, on the first day that I got hired there, I was planning that morning, like my escape plan, which took me too long. I don't think I knew how much I was learning until a couple of years later or finally got the fire lit under me to be like, I got to do my own thing. And I started working with my wife in her public relations firm. I just started adding value in any way that I could there, which is a term or phrase that I kind of hated in the past because it sounds so generic. If you define what it actually means, different ways that you can improve a business or different ways you can improve anything, then that is the way that you're adding value to it. And so I just started helping out in the ways that I could. I knew web development, finances, marketing, social media, strategy, all these different kinds of things that I had learned. And as a side note, it's kind of just really cool how much stuff you soak up by doing it. Kind of obvious, but fascinates me the way that just by doing something for years, if you jump in, you're going to soak up the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding. And that's all that it really takes, is just doing the work for an extended period of time and not giving up. And then you start to learn, and that becomes a part of your advantage if you keep applying it, your competitive advantage. So back to the realities, like the day-to-day realities, it was a ton of work for very little reward, I guess. At the time, it's like what I wanted. All I wanted was to work for myself. I had like vague ambitions of making millions, but I cared more about working for myself, which ultimately is what I got. So maybe I should have focused more on how to reverse engineer making millions. But I felt like we were on the right track, but then things kind of just spiraled at a certain point because we were trying to do too much. We took on too much debt, and I couldn't breathe. Like we did $70,000 in sales one day on Black Friday, or like over the weekend, I think, in a very short period of time. That was the most we'd ever done. And had print on demand facilities. So we printed all of our own stuff in-house. So that means we had to make almost everything that was ordered, and just sitting there thinking, damn, now I got to print and ship out thousands of products, of shirts, sweatshirts. And I just remember the thought came to me that like some salespeople make like $70,000 in commission on one sale. Realtors, or I don't know, people that sell private jets probably make millions on one sale. And we made 70,000 in revenue, not even profit. And now I had to do weeks of work, rushed stress to get this all out before Christmas. And that's when I guess I kind of started thinking more about like, I need to find a better opportunity, like that's more worth my time. Because once you learn the skills of being an entrepreneur, marketing, sales, copywriting, finance, everything else, you can kind of go and apply it to any business in a sense, starting. I mean, it's still going to be hard and challenging, but it's like once you have the skills to manage a small restaurant, it's management skills. You could go start managing at bigger companies, and then manage your own company. Like the set of skills is kind of the same, except for a lot of different nuances. But overall, from a meta point of view, they're kind of the same. Part of me still misses having a clothing brand and having a screen printing setup. But if I knew then what I knew now, would I do it again? And I don't know if I would. If I did, then I would want a budget beforehand. I started with almost no money. Well, I got a $10,000 investment from my grandparents back in the day, which I quickly ran through. And then I got another $10,000 investment from a family friend, which I quickly ran through also, going through trade shows. This was back before a lot of stuff was selling online, like 2008, thinking that getting into all these retail stores through wholesale accounts would be like my key. And then I ended up having to pay back all that money, obviously, because it was a loan, with my day job, which was hard. When I restarted and then actually started the brand that took off, which was in 2010, partnered with a YouTube influencer. He had an existing fan base, continued to grow, and that's when it kind of took off. But at that point, I had the physical capital, which was the screen printing equipment, but we had no money. We started with like $300, I think, of just the printed blanks, and then we did print on demand from there. So if I were to start over, I would want a marketing and advertising budget. I would learn Facebook ads or TikTok ads or some channel, get that dialed in, even if it's direct mail, whatever, have an advertising budget to acquire new customers. That's something that I've learned recently too that I did not understand, is customer acquisition. Like you can kind of treat customers like mini little assets that you buy, and then they return capital and then some for a certain lifespan. So like you can buy customers and they make you more money for a while, and you can buy more, and the cheaper you buy them, the more you make, which is really interesting concept once you learn it. Maybe I'll start another one again for the love of it, or for the money of it, or both. I don't mean to dissuade anyone if you want to start a clothing brand. I just right now am more in the mindset of, if I'm going to have a business, I want it to be a service that people really want or need. Like a clothing brand is challenging because the competition is very fierce and nobody really needs a piece of clothing, a new piece of clothing. There's tons of options out there. Then again, most of the things we want are wants and not needs, so it's not entirely relevant. But the customer acquisition part of clothing for clothing brands is a little more gray to me. That's why I would want to figure out advertising, affiliates probably, and partnering with influencers or some means of getting customers, because to me, making the product is the easy part, but then you have to get people to buy it. So like I said, now I run a public relations and marketing firm. If you want to check us out, feel free, rprfirm.com, link in the description. If not, whatever. Have a good day.